In the headlines, the COVID-19 rescue plan has been unveiled. The opposition gets candid on the social stabilization package. And COVID-19 testing continues with no new positive cases confirmed.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night and welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News for today, Thursday, the 9th of April, 2020. I am Jacka Wooding, standing in for Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet presented the first phase of St. Lucia's COVID-19 stabilization program on Wednesday night. This first program aims to bring immediate support and relief to those who have lost their jobs and income-earning opportunities due to the effects of COVID-19 on various sectors of the economy. Lovely St. Amy Joseph reports.
Prime Minister Alan Chastanet invoked divine intervention before he announced the COVID-19 rescue package on Wednesday night. Over the past few weeks, there has been much clamoring for the government to roll out its economic stimulus plans. The first phase of the government's social stabilization program has been dubbed a rescue plan. The Prime Minister explained that it might not replace the salary of those who are now unemployed due to COVID-19, but it will, quote, certainly soften the economic blow and provide some level of relief, end quote. The focus of the social stabilization program is twofold. Firstly, for persons who have completely lost their income. Secondly, for more vulnerable persons in society, the elderly, persons on the poverty list, and those waiting to be on the poverty list.
So firstly, the persons who've lost their jobs. Temporary income support will be provided to the NIC contributors and non-NIC contributors for a period of 3 months in the first instance. With respect to NIC contributors, a monthly payment relative to your salary of no less than $500 and $1,500 a month will be offered, depending on what your salary was, for a period of 3 months in the first instance, starting in April. Persons eligible for this program had to have paid contributions to the fund for at least 1 month prior to February 2020.
To be eligible for the assistance, people must have become unemployed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and must not have been in receipt of other benefits from the NIC. The NIC allowance is estimated to cost between $33 to $80 million over a 3-month period, depending on the number of eligible people. A review will then be conducted to determine whether an extension for another 3 months will be needed. The Prime Minister reiterated that this is only phase 1. A stimulus package for the economy is still to be rolled out to assist the private sector, in particular small businesses.
In the interim, we are proposing the following. The suspension of all rent payments for 6 months for vendors and operators of hospitality operations, including restaurants which are accommodated in units owned by the government, for SMMEs which can demonstrate loss of business. 2, provide direct support to local indigenous farmers to support increased productivity and inputs to supply the local and regional markets. 3, provide relief to minibus operators through a payment of a $1.1 million in fuel rebate. 4, provide targeted support to farmers and fishermen adversely affected through the purchase of products from farmers and fishers.
Prime Minister Alan Chastanet also announced that assistance will be available from the financial services sector.
The government is working collaboratively with the commercial banks to support a moratorium on bank mortgage payments, both principal and interest, for both individuals, entities, for a period of 6 months, April to September 2020. As such, displaced workers and businesses adversely affected by COVID-19 pandemic will obtain much needed relief from the commercial banks. The government will also seek to support similar relief from credit unions for their customers who have been displaced or suffered loss of business.
In order to encourage companies to maintain their staff, the government will offer a tax credit of 30% of the employee's full salary. To fund its programs, though, the government needs to collect revenue, And so an extension of time will be granted for corporate income tax installment payments due on the 31st of March, the 30th of June, and the 30th of September 2020. The extension of time is for 1 month in each instance. An extension of time will be granted for the filing of income tax returns by 1 month for all tax types administered by the Inland Revenue Department. There will be a waiver of interest and penalties on all tax types administered by the Inland Revenue Department due in the month of March 2020. Similarly, all payment due dates for the months of April to September 2020 will be extended by 1 month. For example, value-added tax payments due on the 21st of April will now be due on the 21st of May. Personal income tax payment due on the 31st of March 2020 will now be due on the 30th of April 2020. For more information on the government's Social Stabilization Program, you can visit the government website or the Prime Minister's Facebook page.
Opposition leader Philip J. Pierre is speaking candidly on the rescue plan rolled out by Prime Minister Alan Chastanet.
Last week, I delivered a package which is actually a stimulus package that covered both the economic and the social aspects of what I think should be a post-COVID situation. And I think the public will have a chance to compare both packages, have a look at it, have an unbiased look at it, and see which one better suits the country at this time. I think it's a matter of comparison. But what I want to say, I just want to make a few small points. I want to say that this crisis is unique. It's the first time that the world has gone through any crisis of that nature. So it's unique. As I said, it's an extraordinary crisis, and it needs extraordinary measures, extraordinary responses. But so you cannot use the same old analysis that you used before to look at that situation now.
Prominent accountant Richard Peterkin has also weighed in on the Prime Minister's announced social stabilization package meant to address the economic impact of COVID-19. He appeared as a guest on Hot 7 TV's program Coronavirus St. Lucia's Response. Lovely St. Amy Joseph tells us more.
The devil is in the details. That is the sentiment of accountant Richard Peterkin when it comes to the Prime Minister's announced social stabilization package. Phase 1 is a rescue package that offers assistance to the underprivileged and those who have suffered job losses. The second phase will be a more long-term stimulus package for the economy. Peterkin says the task of identifying who needs the support and getting it to them urgently is a Herculean task, to say the least.
The question of NEMO coming up with one list, I'm not quite sure how they're going to compile that list, how quickly they're going to be able to get that list done so that people can actually start to, they need it now. They can't wait a week, they can't wait 10 days. And so I just hope that they have the people on board that have been working frantically even before the address so that they can start the ball rolling. And
Peterkin says to the Prime Minister's credit, the rescue plan aimed to be wide-ranging. He says it could have been more substantial, but the sobering fact is that the rescue package is defined by the current fiscal reality.
NIC has, $1 billion in investments, but at the same time, they need their money to pay future benefits in the future. And as it looks now, when you look at the curve at NIC, the contributions coming in are almost now equal to the actual benefits being paid out. So if they start using up their reserves, albeit for good reason, somehow they're going to have to be put back. And this is one of the issues coming out of all that they're doing now, is that whatever they do, we have to accept that we're going to have to replace these monies at some point in the future, whether it means tax increases, whether it means an increase, let's say, in the NIC levels that we pay, whatever. It's not just money that just, we use now and we never have to worry about it again.
At this point, he predicts that the government will have to look at repurposing loans to keep the economy afloat.
If a loan was intended to do this, you can now ask the donor whether you can, or the lender, whether you can use it to do that instead. And that's one way, and certainly with Taiwan, it's going to be one way of using some of the monies they're going to lend or grant for certain projects or certain things. Now we can use it for a stimulus. This crisis is going to impact us in at least 10% of our GDP, if not more. 10% of our GDP is $500 million. If we try to get a stimulus of anywhere in that region, $300 to $500 million, big question is where's it coming from? Because the IMF and World Bank facilities and grants from Taiwan may not cut it.
Peterkin anticipates that the rollout of the rescue package will be challenging. For the long-term stimulus, he says all options need to be looked at, and it will be a delicate balancing act of finding the financing.
Effective April 8, 2020, St. Lucia has recorded no new COVID-19 cases from the announcement of the island's 14th positive case on Saturday, April 5, 2020. The 24-hour curfew has been reduced to a 10-hour curfew, effective Tuesday, the 7th of April. With the advent of these new changes, the Ministry of Health and Wellness continues to echo the sentiment of practicing proper hygiene and social distancing. Genevieve Gonzaga reports.
St. Lucia can breathe a sigh of relief for now, as the island has not recorded any new positive cases of COVID-19 since April 5th, when the public was informed of case number 14. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belma-George provided a recent update on the confirmed COVID-19 cases.
St. Lucia's record of confirmed cases of COVID-19 remains at 14, with the last case was recorded on Saturday, April 5, 2020. To date, we have 60 persons in hotel-based quarantine, 14 in home quarantine, and 23 in isolation.
While the island has hit a snag with its capability to do testing locally, testing is still being facilitated by CARFA in Trinidad. Dr. Belma-George indicated that a number of tests have been carried out with encouraging results.
From the week of April 4, 2020 to present, we have received a total of 34 COVID-19 test results, all of which were negative. Of those, the most recent set of results were received on Tuesday, April 7, 2020, when a total of 18 test results were received, all negative.
Effective April 7th, the 24-hour curfew St. Lucia was placed under was reduced to 10 hours. The CMO is calling on members of the public to remember that there are protocols to be adhered to. She is asking the public to remember that COVID-19 is still very much a threat and the measures put in place must be respected.
Effective Tuesday, April 7th, 2020, the 24-hour curfew was reduced to a 10-hour curfew, which runs from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. Some of the national protocols included in the reduced curfew are the continuation of the requirements to stay at home unless venturing out for food, medical, or emergency purposes, maintaining the recommended 6-foot distance when in public, avoiding mass crowd events and social gatherings, and maintaining the recommended infection prevention and control measures.
The public is being urged to continue maintaining the standard recommendations put out by the officials to prevent the spread of the virus.
We continue to remind the public to focus on the maintenance of standard recommendations to prevent the spread of infection. That is regular hand washing with soap and flowing water, and the use of alcohol-based hand sanitizer, covering your mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing, and also to seek medical attention and share your travel history or contact history with your healthcare provider.
Members of the public are advised to continue practicing social distancing, as it is the most effective strategy to help reduce the spread of COVID-19. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzaga.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. We have more coming up after this short break.